Hey YouTube, doing some more work on the ASH26 here. Just wanted to give you a follow-up. My memory ran out and I didn't realize it at the time. When we were gluing these things on with the epoxy, of course. So we got them glued up now. They feel like they're pretty sturdy and everything, but that's still only probably been about an hour or so. And they look nice. Happy with the way they went together. Just a little bit of extra epoxy there, so at this point I'm just planning on leaving that where it is. But now that it's been a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and peel off this tape. Give you guys the final look. Uh-oh! That's one thing about epoxy, is it's very sticky. You don't want to wait too long if you're trying to mask. Looks like I just caught the edge of the tape underneath my joint there, where I was kind of squeezing it together. Okay, so we'll peel that off. Then we'll peel off the other side. So my idea to protect the finish worked, but my idea to use epoxy probably would have been a better idea to just use CA. I don't think the epoxy was necessary. I don't think it added that much value, but we'll see. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to tell if you should have done it different. But right now, I'm just going to peel this stuff off. I'm sorry I lost you guys at the end there of that last video. I try not to do that when possible. Okay, so this one here kind of got a little cockeyed. Not crazy about that. But you know what? I think it's just, you know, lick my fingers so they don't stick if there's any epoxy residue there. I think it's probably the way it's going to be. Hard to tell sometimes on these things when you're in the heat of the moment doing it. The epoxy is drying and you got the pressure of trying to figure out how to get it to assemble together. That's pretty good on this one. I would say neither of them are perfect. So, I mean, it is what it is. It looks good. If you look at them here, kind of the alignment's really close, which is what I was more concerned about. Having one that would sit way over or one that would be more vertical. So that turned out nicely. So my next maneuver is kind of to get away from this area so that can set up. And I was going to work on another part of the plane, which would be the rudder and the horizontal stabilizer, kind of both of those. And so I've laid out the stuff that needs to be assembled. I'm reluctantly waiting for this seam to dry. See the white? I don't know if you guys can make out that white in the seam, but that white means that there's still glue that's setting up. But it does fit really nice. I put it on there just to see how it would fit, and it fits really good. But until that's done, I can't really move on to that part of the project. Now, as you can probably imagine, the rudder is going to be controlled from up here. There's a servo that's going to have a linkage that goes back. Sorry about that, guys. The phone was ringing. Okay, so there's going to be a linkage that goes from front to back, and the linkage is going to escape out one of these two holes. And I suspect that I'll probably go whichever side we have the controls for this servo up here, we'll go the opposite way. But it just kind of depends on how it works out up front. This could be a push-pull system where you actually have, or a pull-pull system. The other thing is I'm looking at the way that lines up, and it's kind of rocky, meaning this is flat or this is flat, one or the other, and then the other is not. Here, we could put it on the table saw. I bet it's this. The rudder itself has got that. It's not that big a deal because the type of hinge I'm planning on using shouldn't be an issue for that, because we're going to have a hinge in the middle. So obviously you get, it's not a real huge rudder. I'd actually really rather have a bigger rudder. But my plans for the rudder were to go with some CMPro products that I've got. And I'm always reluctant to use these for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I don't want to use a regular CA joint. Okay, so these are nylon hinges, and then these are small nylon hinges. And you can see that the difference is just the breadth of the hinge. And I think they're about the same price. But one thing that irritates me about this plane is they already cut something here, and they cut something here. And they did the same on the main fuselage. So, I mean, if 2 hinge points is satisfactory, then I suppose I could do 2 bigger ones and see if that's enough. But I would have preferred to have at least 3. Whoops. 2 of them shot out already. Okay, so you can see how these things work. They're nice and sturdy. They're not so sturdy that in an accident they wouldn't break. I would say that you're probably going to have more strength on a CA hinge. But a CA hinge has resistance. Okay, so let's just see if this is already opened up. It just seems like it already is, but maybe it's not all the way through. I can't tell. But it just kind of annoys me that they went and cut into that stuff. So the other thing too is I don't know the exact position that this thing is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be, you know, right down on the bottom so that it's like flush with the bottom, you know, to give room for clearance on the elevator, and then the control rod up here, because obviously at some point this is going to be up here. But you can see there's just hardly any movement up there. Or is this supposed to be up a ways so that when you make landings? The other thing is you need to have somewhere for the linkage to come out and actually make contact. So I think on this one I'm going to try to kind of find the happy medium. So just up a little bit, but not all the way to the top there. Now that being understood, putting this hinge in here is no big deal. That's super easy. This is just balsa. But then putting the hinge into this material, this carbon or this composite material, could be a huge task actually. So it doesn't make me very nervous. So that's why I'm kind of torn on how I want to do this. I'm just curious if this thing's going to bite. See, maybe I can slather some epoxy in from out here through to the side. Sometimes these things are, you know, run the risk of maybe overthinking things a little bit like I'm doing on this project, but it's always frustrating when you get into them and then all of a sudden you can't get finished with the project, or you have to renegotiate like 6 steps back to try to make this stuff happen. See, I didn't quite fit in there, which is fine. I just want a little more control in the cut than just using an X-Acto knife. since this is already cut, I guess that's where I'm going to do it. See? Looks like I'm not the first guy to do that. It's very easy to do that, by the way. So, that was really easy to slip out of there. Well, anyway, the other way I could do it would be to use a saw. And using a saw would definitely get through the material. See, now it's able to get in there at least. So I would just need to open up that hinge a little bit more. I could also just use a small hinge. I mean, these two hinges would clearly operate that. I'm just kind of curious if I use a small hinge, if that would fit. Because I don't really care which one I use as long as I get... I'd really like to have 3 points of contact. But... see that? And then my hope is I can take and slather some CA in from this angle. Or not CA, epoxy. And then this top joint I should definitely be able to get in. To get that slathered from the backside on the hinge material. I guess we'll just go with the smaller ones if they work. I don't like cutting balsa wood back here, guys. I feel like I'm cutting epoxy. Feels like it might go. See, the reason for me doing this first is because once I get these in, then I can locate exactly where I need to cut on the balsa wood, because the balsa wood's really easy to cut. You can move that wherever you need it. Need to take a little bit more material out on this spot here. That worked pretty good. All these steps that you think are going to take 5 seconds definitely don't take 5 seconds on composite plane. Really kind of, it's going now finally. Okay, so there it goes. Now a guy could take and put screws in there if he had a material that he could get access to. See this? That might become a problem when I go to put the servo in. In fact, let's grab a servo and just see how it pockets in there. I think we'll put these things down. Now this this servo is going to be these ones are Metal Gear, if I recall, and they're going to be for the wings. Metal Gear Digital. Plastic analog. So that's going to be for the elevator. Where's my other Metal Gear servo? Just want to make sure I don't pick the wrong one for size. Okay, it's just a 3352. 3352. Here it is. Because I was toying with the idea of these are Metal Gear Digitals. So these are for the wings. This one's going to be for the elevator. Okay, so when I get ready to glue this in onto the servo cover plate, which is, I think it's the bigger one here. Well, I guess I'm not 100% sure it's one of these. Looks like that actually fits really good in that pocket. So, but then why do I have a huge one and then two smaller ones? I don't really get that. Because this fits into the pocket perfectly. So, might have to do some double checking there. But suppose that's the way it goes. Then this servo is going to be either like this or like this. With the control arm protruding through. Something like that. Okay? So you can see where it's going to end up being. So I have to work out how to get all these wires through everything as well, which is not a big deal. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I don't think we're even going to get close to hitting that. So I think we're okay there. Excuse me. So, now if you're using these Corona digital servos that I got here, these things are way bigger. And they may not actually work. Because they're so dang big. They're also quite a bit heavier too. So, anyway, I got those as a possible use for the wing. But they aren't gonna fit. But just noticing that there was this problem here. Here's what really kind of got me wondering about these plastic pieces. Because there's an oversized one and then two smaller ones. I guess I'm not 100% certain which one's which. Have to assume the same ones are the ones that are used for the wings. Let's check on one of the wings real quick while we're thinking about it. That's big enough to cover the hole. So I guess I have to reasonably assume that this one's designed to work on the control surface of the wing. Okay. Well, that's fine. So these are the wing ones, this is the rudder one. So the rudder one seems to be a little bit larger, which is strange to me. Seems like you'd want it to drop down in the pocket, but... And it's got a... Feels almost like it's got a little bit of bend to it. So you'd probably want it to be something like this. Alright, well, we'll come back to that here in a little bit. But now that we know that that's not going to be an issue, we could hypothetically get it epoxied in. Or at least cut the rudder. So that the rudder can receive those hinge points. Which is what we're going to do next. Okay, so let's talk about rudder position. You want those to be nice and square. And you can tell that there'll be a very, very small gap between the rudder and the vertical stabilizer, rather. think that's good there. I'd actually mark this with a pencil if it'll mark. I just want it to be really faint. I don't want a bunch of guesswork on this aspect of the model. Marking the top and the bottom. And then I'm just going to get this one done first. Okay, there's our top mark. There's our top and bottom mark right there. Just double check. Make sure we're 100% sure. Yep, 100% sure. Okay, so there's already a start in this cut. Okay, it looks like they already have the pocket ready. So we may not even need to cut it. Okay, so we got it started. Now it looks like this one here, it's also started. Okay, so we got that one. So if we start that there, then we need to right above my finger. So I'm just going to go in with the blade to open up the pocket properly. Yeah, it's definitely cut open already. Okay, so we got that on. Seems like we're a little low. Yeah, we're low. That's why it's not going in well. You can use the super thin CA. You just gotta try to keep it out of those hinges, which is hard. Alright, this is not going very smooth. It should not be a hard step. And it's, like, truthfully, it's not really that hard. It's just, I'm nervous about screwing stuff up. So I'm going to grab this and push it down. Yes, just like that. Perfect. So now I can lift it. Perfect. I can take the pencil, push this side down. Okay. Now we can get it slid in. Come on, just go. Okay, so we got that part in. Now we just got to work this part. There's so much pressure, it's almost like I can't sit here and say that it needs to be glued. I mean, if you get glue on there, why does it click? These come from the bottom. Okay. It's got a rudder. That's pretty cool, guys. I can't necessarily say that I think that it needs glue. I really honestly don't think it needs glue. I'm halfway tempted to just drill like one really, really small screw and just put one little small screw through. I hate the noise though. Why does it make the noise, guys? I do think we need to glue this side. Oh, I know what's going on, I think. The pin has got just a little teeny bend in it. Okay. So we have the rudder attached. That was way more work than I thought it was going to be. So now we need to either get in there with a little bit of epoxy. Yeah, we're doing epoxy. We're not gonna do this halfway. Let me pause it, get the epoxy mixed. Alright guys, so we got this epoxy and hardener 15-minute out here. I always try to get them just as equal as possible. They seem to set up a lot better that way. And I normally mix with a bigger stick, but in this case, what I'm mixing with, I'm going to try to also get in there and scrape it into the hole. So I'm just going to go with this smaller one. Oh, while we're mixing, this is 15-minute epoxy, so I'm going to set the timer for 12 minutes on the microwave. That's just going to be my little reminder, like, hey, things are about ready to be done. Hurry up and get it done if you're not already. If you decide you want to use CA on this, I wouldn't blame you. It just seems like the CA might run into the hinge a little bit, and so it makes me nervous. But to be honest with you, it makes me nervous with this anyway. Okay, so I'm going to just work this, get it wrapped on there like a big blob. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to just drip it in there like a blob. Okay? Just going to let it drip in there like a big blob. And that's it. Now I'm going to get creative about how I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to put this back down. And I'm just going to grab a Q-tip or something similar, and see with a Q-tip you can bend that and get your shape. Careful not to hit your other planes on the ceiling if you have them. Okay, so I'm going to spread that epoxy just like that. Just spread it out all around in that area as much as you can reach. Okay, so that's good enough for what we're doing. Okay, so that's glued now on the inside. So now I can lay this Q-tip down. I want to try to get epoxy in on the other half now too, which is going to be in just every step of the way. We're just double checking, because you could still yank this out if you noticed a problem. Okay, so it's right up inside of here, right there. Okay, I can't hardly see it, but I know it's there, so I'm just going to basically load this thing up just like what we did. Just going to spread it over here. Just kind of, it's being a pain. Okay, so I'm going to try to pick up a pretty huge blob of it, because this one we need it to fall further. So get that blob and start working it into a drip. Okay, be careful how you do this. Okay, working it into a drip. Oh boy, I got it in there. Okay, I can feel the hinge. I'm hitting it with my Q-tip, or with my toothpick. And looks like this side, I'm just trying to double check I didn't drip all the way out onto the other side. I can't necessarily say that I can see a ton better from this hole. They're pretty much the same. And then whatever we do, our last step is going to be take a Q-tip and just clean around that hole. Okay, so I need to lay this down again. Preferably upside down so that the stuff drips downward. If I did manage to get it in there where it needs to be. Okay, so this time I'm just scraping it, trying to take all of it. Okay, so I got basically all of it here. Just don't forget to spin it or it'll drip on your plane. Just letting it work its way down. Oh, that was messy. Okay, I don't know that there's a whole lot better way of doing that, to be honest. I can feel the hinge in there. I know for sure I'm getting some epoxy on it. Now I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to wipe off the excess by spinning it so it doesn't spread. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just take that excess and just work it in and around, because that is good for strengthening the plane. Now I'm just going to repeat that until I got all the epoxy off. Just going to take the clean and just work it in a circle and just rotate it. Okay, take the clean side, rotate it, and pick up as much material as you can. And then we'll come back with a Q-tip here in 30 seconds and we'll actually clean it with alcohol. Okay, so I have to make a reasonable assumption, because I can see some drips of some shininess of epoxy in there. So now I'm just going to basically hold this thing vertical for a few minutes and just let that epoxy do its magic. I'm going to let it cook. Now I might want to hang this actually somewhere. So let me think about that. I didn't think about that earlier. I should have, but I didn't. Now I could hang it here, but it's got to be careful I don't damage my fiberglass. Okay, that worked pretty good actually. So I can just set that up there. There's just a screw it's hanging off of. So while that's cooking, you get some alcohol. Probably should get some more of these down here. Here's our alcohol. I knew it was around here somewhere. So you guys can see, when you come from a background of working on foamies, there's not very many steps that aren't scary on these things, because it's so easy to undermine yourself by just doing stuff in the wrong order. And okay, so now that I've got this, I'm going to go ahead and just get in here and just wipe the outside. I can probably flip this up right now. That epoxy here pretty soon, it's going to be getting, we're probably about 8-9 minutes in, I'm guessing. Okay, so we'll just grab those couple of stragglers. Now you can use acetone to clean this too, from what the package says. And it looks like we're out of memory, guys, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.